Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. All right, it is Thursday afternoon. We just finished the Art Ed Now Summer Conference. I'm here with Abby Shukai and Lindsay Moss to kind of break it all down and talk about everything that happened today. It was an exciting day. Both of you guys got to be on camera, which was pretty cool, and we got good reviews. Like, people like seeing different hosts and not just staring at my face all day. So that's kind of cool. But I think the biggest thing we need to talk about is just kind of your highlight from the conference. So Abby, like, for you, what was the number one thing that was really a highlight for you?
Okay, so my favorite thing, and a lot of other art teachers shared this via social media as well, is in the swag box, I was absolutely obsessed with the Uli watercolors.
Yes, those are amazing. Well, and we saw the Instagram story where you were doing Uli painting.
Yeah, and so that was the first time that I had even heard of the Uli brand watercolors, the Chroma Blends. So I was super stoked to try those out. And I tried them out on watercolor paper, construction paper. Someone even in the chat was like, hey, I'm going to try this on my clay projects. So I think that could be super rad to try out, but they're going to be awesome. And I think I'm going to have to order 1 million of them for my classroom.
Nice. All right, Lindsay, what about for you? What was the big highlight?
Oh man, I have 6, but I guess my top number one was maybe Ben Shoemaker's memory project.
Yes.
I was moved to tears by the end of that presentation. It was so beautiful. And then as an elementary teacher, I was watching it and it seemed like a lot of the examples were really realistic. And I thought, well, man, this is something they should do. I should take it back and tell my high school teachers, in my district. But then, we were having kind of a conversation off air about how they could be abstract portraits or other things. And it is open to elementary kids. So aside from feeling really moved about the power of art to make the world a more positive place for people who are in circumstances that are less than ideal, I'm so excited now that it's something my kids could actually do. So I'm totally going to investigate that before school starts this fall. I can't wait. I feel it's powerful.
I think a couple things that, I just thought about while you were talking there. Number one, it was just such a powerful presentation. The first time I watched it, I was crying by the end of it. And we saw a couple people in the chat that, just said, I'm so glad this came before break so I can go cry for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just seeing those kids receive their portraits was just, like you said, so powerful. And the cool thing is, they will accept portraits from any grade level. And Ben has told me before, I've talked about with him, getting elementary students or even just kids who aren't that great at, realistic drawings or realistic paintings, that's probably not the only portrait that those kids are going to get. And so a lot of times the kids will receive 3 or 4 or 5 portraits. And so the ones your kids give are just one of, a half dozen that they're getting. And so there's not really any pressure to make them super realistic or super, looking just like the subject. So if anybody's interested, I would encourage them to kind of check into that. And then my favorite thing, and we've talked about her all the time, but Jen Stark was just amazing to see her, see her studio, see her working, and have her talk about not only the amazing thing that she's doing and, the Q&A, people ask, how do you build your sculptures? And she gave us, the step-by-step process of how she does those. And then she's also naming off all her influences. And people are like, yes, I love this artist. I love this artist. And so I hope she's encouraging people to go, explore more contemporary art and bring more stuff into her classroom. So I think that was definitely a highlight for me. And then, Abby, it seemed like social media was kind of going crazy today. So for those of you that don't know, Abby's our social media director. So can you just kind of give us the rundown of what was happening?
There was actually a lot of art making happening along the way. There were some teachers using the supplies that came in the swag box or the provided list, and they were kind of making as they went. So that was super fun to see. And it's just, this time of year can be kind of hard for teachers as they're going back to school. Summer's ending. So I think one of the biggest things that I saw is teachers just coming back with ideas that they can use in their classroom right away. And there's a lot of good material from the conference that can really be applied in that way. So like that's, notes were so beautiful. I love seeing the pages that people provide, but I'm really excited to see what you guys take from the conference and how you apply it into the classroom. So if you are trying something out as you start the school year, make sure to share it with us, either on Twitter or Instagram, and I would love to see what you guys are doing with that.
Yeah, it's super cool. And if you want to see what everybody else is doing, just use the ArtEdNow hashtag, whether you're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Just search hashtag ArtEdNow and you can see what everybody is making, what everybody is doing, and kind of give you a good idea of the conference experience and everything that was going on. And kind of related to that whole idea of seeing what everybody else is doing, Lindsay, I know you were running the chat throughout the day. So can you just kind of tell us, what some of the themes were, discussions that were happening, what people were talking about throughout the day?
Sure, yeah. So there were a lot of things that people were really on fire about, like Don Massey's presentation. They were particularly interested in his app list. He had some really creative apps that he was using with his kids, and people were talking about, in particular, the one where they were creating sculptures, images of sculptures, and then putting them over a video or a photo of an actual place on the school
like
grounds.
making them site-specific to their elementary school.
At the elementary, site-specific work at the elementary level, how creative. So I know people were right away asking for his app list in the chat, so that was kind of interesting. Rachel Albert, people were going on and on about her animation section. She had that linked to, was it Animating Kids, I think is
that website.
The website she uses. And I felt like personally, I love teaching stop motion animation, but I've always really struggled with the logistics. And it was just an aha moment watching her give that presentation. And that was all over the chat. People were reflecting about what she was saying and some of those strategies and saying that, they were going to transition from clay to paper like she was doing, because it just really seemed like it was so workable for multiple ages of kids. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I was a little hesitant to see that like almost 15-minute video, but there was just so much information in there that it really was like the complete guide that she.
It was really fun to see her students working in it as well, which is super cool.
Yeah, I always love the spots where you get kind of a view into people's classrooms. So like you said, Don did that. He had some clips of his kids working. I think my favorite was Ruthie Post. She had her kindergartners. And you guys probably know what I'm talking about if you saw this live.
It was hilarious.
She's got all these stuffed animals and a stuffed cactus, in fact. And there's a little kindergartner who, how would you describe, what was he talking about? Like just
the exact quote. Well, the cactus was like insulting his work, and she was kind of talking about growth mindset, like moving beyond like your internal fear when you're a little kid making art.
Yeah, and don't let the bad cactus talk down to you. Right?
Basically, yeah, like the cactus was the villain, and I mean the actual quote, the kid called the cactus a booger brain.
I said, I'm not going to listen to this booger brain.
That might have been my favorite conference moment. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, that was pretty great. But yeah, just all of those sort of views into people's classrooms are always, they're entertaining, yes, but they're also helpful to just kind of see how these things go in action. So that's always good. And then a big thing that Abby and I talked about last week, and Lindsay, you and I have talked about before, is just how you take these ideas and bring them back to your classroom. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'll share with people my ideas as well. What are the ideas that you're going to take away? Like, what specifically are you going to put into action either for yourself or for your classroom? So, Lindsay, you're first.
Okay,
give us.
So Jim O'Donnell had this session on assessment, and like the quote that I really took away from that session that I'm probably going to just like draw on an index card and hang on my computer at work was that he doesn't grade kids, he grades with kids.
Yes.
And I thought about how everything we know about having meaningful assessment includes the art maker in that. So why, for the good gosh darn, am I doing rubrics at home at night in my pajamas in front of the TV? I should be doing them in the classroom with my kids. And after I start a new lesson and they're all sort of settling into working independently, that would be the perfect time to be doing one-on-one conferences and grading with kids and having these conversations about their previous art project and their work and having them self-reflect and do the rubric. So, this is something I think I already knew, but the way Jim articulated it and was describing it, I was like, man, that is going to be my commitment this fall. That is what I'm going to do when I get back to work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I do that all the time at the high school level, but I know it's a lot tougher at the elementary level because you see so many kids, your time is so short, you see them once every 4 days or every 6 days. So I would say, and I don't know if you agree with this, but for elementary teachers who want to try something like that, don't feel like you need to do every class, every project, as far as the assessment. Just start small, right?
Yeah, I would totally agree. Just pick one and get going. That's my plan at least.
Okay, cool. Abby, what's one idea that you're taking back to your classroom?
Well, I'm terrible at teaching fiber arts, and it's just something that I've never really done, so I'm like super intimidated by it. I follow all these really cool textile artists online, but like I'm scared to teach it. So Amber Kane's presentation all about bringing back the creativity into fiber arts was really inspiring to me as something that I could actually do with my students. She had some really cool just visuals of how you can infuse it into all different areas of your curriculum. Like it doesn't just have to be traditional weaving. Like there's just some really great ideas that she shared within that. And her sketchbook was incredible. Yes. And I know that I follow her on Instagram too, her teacher one. I think she's at Teacher Kane on Instagram. And she's always sharing those kind of things. So I think after watching this conference, I think I'm finally building up the courage to try something in my classroom. So wish me luck.
Good luck, for sure. But no, I think that's an important point because she gave so many ideas that are just simple. Like there's no pressure. Like try it out in your sketchbook. If it works, awesome. And maybe you adapt that to a bigger project. If it doesn't work, whatever,
Well, even teaching fibers with color mixing and things like that, she had provided some really good ideas on how you can do that. Something so simple, but it's just a new way to look at something that our kids already know.
Yeah, absolutely. My idea that I'm most excited about was actually your escape room, Lindsay.
Hey, thanks.
No, but like my wife and I, we took our kids to an escape room a couple weeks ago for the first time. It was awesome. It was so much fun. We signed up and went back again, like within a week.
It's addictive.
It really is. And I love the idea of how you can do this with your kids, do it in the classroom, and I think that's going to be super cool. So we should probably collaborate on doing one of those sometime. I think.
Agreed.
Yeah, we're in an office right now, and Lindsay was the last one in. Did you lock us in here? Do we need to break out?
We must escape.
This podcast can be lost to time. It's never going to be published because we just aren't going to get out of here.
So come rescue us, please.
All right, so Lindsay, what would be takeaway number 2 for you?
Okay, so Ruth Post's segment, she had like a lot of stuffed animals, and like on the surface it was like really cute and adorable, and the kids had adorable quotes. But like the more I'm digesting it, I think she's on to some smart strategies. Like she had this portion where she was talking with kids about realistic versus abstract art, and she had like a whole host of like hedgehogs, right? And there were like tons of stuffed animals, and there were realistic hedgehogs animals, and then there were ones that had like weird triangle spikes and were multicolored, and she was kind of using that as like a really concrete metaphor for her youngest learners. And like the more that is like marinating and settling into my head, I feel like abstraction is such a hard concept for my youngest kids, and this might really be a way to connect with kindergarten. So when my husband complains that there's a bunch of stuffed animals on the credit card, you'll know why.
Love it. So, Abby, what else are you doing besides fibers?
Well, Debbie West started off the day with some really inspiring content. First off, I practically want to be Debbie West when I grow up.
We all
do. That's goals. Debbie, I hope you're listening. But she is just a wealth of knowledge. Just her inspiring. Her presentation was all about service learning projects and giving back to your community, giving back to all the things. And Lindsay talked about the memory project earlier, and she shared a little bit about that. But just the ways that you can really make art with a purpose and make it meaningful. It's what art is. It's what is the powerful tool with it. And Debbie really expressed how your students can make a difference by creating art in that way. So I'm excited to take some of those elements into my classroom as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's so well said. And now you both are talking about these really like big ideas, thinking really deeply about things. And my second takeaway was just encaustics sound like fun. So, so Lena Rodriguez had an awesome presentation that, makes encaustics a lot less intimidating. Like, I don't know if intimidation is the right word, but I don't have any experience with them and I don't really know where to start. But she had just a great presentation saying, here are the supplies you need, here's how to get started, and just kind of walks you through the whole thing. So I think that's something that I want to try. And then number 3, Lindsay, what do you got?
Well, I think I mentioned it before, but like one of the action steps I wrote in my planner for when I get back to school is that website that Rachel Albert shared, the Animating Kids one. It was so interesting to me because when I teach stop motion animation, I'm struggling just to get my kids to make fluid movement. But she had all of these lessons from that website broken down into small things like, eyes blinking, or the idea that you needed characters of several different sizes to make foreground, middle ground, background. And obviously that type of lesson is going to take up a lot more classroom time than I'm currently using on stop motion animation. But then I felt like when she was talking about these mini lessons, there were so many other art skills embedded that you're really covering such a breadth with one thing. And then I loved at the end, she talked about having a 6th grade film festival.
Yes.
Man, that is like now my goal to add that to my art show this year. I can just see my kids being so pumped about that. So, and that's neat too, because I think like for me anyway, you show artwork online and you show things at a traditional art show, and that just seemed like a really interesting way to get the community involved.
Oh, yeah.
You could invite all kinds of people that come to your film festival.
You're gonna have to get a popcorn machine though. That's what she said.
Yes.
She had. So
that was a selling point for me. I am into that.
Totally.
You need to talk to your principal right now. Be good. All right, so Abby, third takeaway.
So I really liked Ray Yang's presentation on comics and zines. They, teaching middle school, I actually have a lot of middle school boys in my classroom, and I know that sometimes we look at comics and we don't really find that there's a place for them in the art room, or we look at anime and it doesn't really seem to fit, or we don't want our students to do this, but Ray talked about so much about using it for storytelling, and he had it was deep.
I know, I had no idea, about the history of comics or, how deep it went as far as meaning, and just, it was powerful.
Yeah, so I think there's so much to explore with that I think maybe because growing up, I was never really super interested in comics. I kind of tried to stay away from that, but it's something that I see, and I know I can tell by the shirts my students wear. They're into comics, they're into that. So that's definitely something that was a big takeaway for me that I really need to dive into more, and Ray provided a lot of resources for me to do that, so I can't wait to try that out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then my last one was just the electrical tape that Tess Wang did. That's really cool visually. I love the idea of having it on the floor, but then she also made it about identity and about meaning, which was just so much more powerful, and I think that's a great idea.
And on social media, one of the things that I saw someone post about that, they were lamenting that they had carpet on their floor. And so for those of you that weren't watching, she was putting tape onto the linoleum. She's like, oh, I could do that on my ceiling tiles. So that's kind of a good temporary way, if you can't paint your tiles or something like that you could try it out that way.
Yeah, definitely some really good ideas. All right, I think it's probably time for us to wrap it up there. So Abby, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me. It was great to have you guys here all day for the conference, but I think it's time for us to go home now. So thank you so much, though. Hey, that was a really fun conversation and a really fun couple of days just hanging out with Lindsay and Abby, preparing for the conference, and then just going through everything together today. It's always nuts behind the scenes. I hope you guys got to see a little bit of it, on Facebook Live, and got a look at kind of what AOE headquarters is like on the conference. And I hope you enjoyed the whole conference, just when you're watching videos, seeing all of these new ideas, listening to all these presenters. We tried a lot of new things with, more hosts, more people in the live chat. I think it went really well. Heard a lot of great feedback from people just during the event. And I love hearing both good feedback and bad feedback. So if you have anything you want to tell me about the conference or podcast or anything else, as always, you can email radioguys@theartofed.com and just let me know what you think. Now, if you feel like you're missing out or you have not yet registered for the winter conference, just go to artednow.com. You can check out everything that's going to be going on at the winter conference, February 2nd, 2019. We already have a handful of presenters up there, and it's going to be quite a bit of fun. But most importantly, I think we discussed here which ideas, are ready to go back to the classroom. What are the things that you can take back and use this school year and make your art room a better place, make your art room a more enjoyable place and a better spot for learning for your kids. So, just spend some time thinking about everything that you saw today, the ideas that you think are best, and most importantly, how you can implement them and how you can bring these ideas to your kids to make your art room a better place to be. Because honestly, in the end, that's what it's all about. Art Ed Radio is produced by The Art of Education with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Now, I think we are probably done with conference talk for a while, but I hope you enjoyed the podcast about the conference, the Jen Stark interview, this post-conference wrap-up, and I hope you enjoyed Art Ed Now itself. Now, if you didn't attend, make sure you are with us for the next one in February. My goal is to make each conference better than the last, and I think we've been pretty successful at that so far. So I cannot wait to see what we can put together in February. Thanks for listening.